So this is the video key that I promised everyone. The first thing I want to remind you, you should do the homework first and then check your answer so that you know that you're doing it correctly. When you check your answer, try using a colored pencil so that you can see the mistakes that you're making. All right, so for the homework, this is Slt8 Homework Key. The first question asks, Ms. Chin needs to fertilize her garden. For every 1 1/3 cup of fertilizer, we're mixing that with 2 3/4 cups of water. And I need to find out how much is needed for 1 cup of water. So the 1 cup of water is how I know that that's the denominator of our unit rate. And I'm just going to write water. And I know that fertilizer has to be my numerator. Okay, wow, spelling. Woo. All right, so the first thing I want to do is change these mixed fractions over to improper fractions. So that's 4/3. I did 1 times 3 plus 1. And then the 2 3/4, I did 2 times 4, which makes 8, plus 3 more makes 11. So 11/4. All right, if I know that this is how I have to have my unit rate, then I'm going to put my fertilizer in the numerator, which is the 4/3. I'm going to put my water in my denominator, which is 11/4. And then I am going to try and multiply this by a value so that the denominator equals 1, because that's what we need, right? So that gives me 44/44, which is the one that we needed. In the numerator, I'm multiplying by 4/11, because if I multiply the denominator, I have to multiply the numerator so that we don't change our fraction, and we get 16/33. Okay? So, what does this actually say? It says that 16/33 cups of fertilizer for every 1 cup of water. And remember, in class we talked about that the fraction bar, we can just consider that word the per. So for every is another way to say the word per. Okay, so this question was really asking you for the unit rate for 1 cup of water. And that answer is 16/33. Next, the second question is asking you to use the table to figure out the cost of the candy proportional to the amount purchased. So is it proportional? And let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys. So when I look at my table, you're trying to find, is there a number I can multiply each of these x values by to give me the exact y values listed? And sometimes it's easy to tell, and sometimes it's not. And if it's not easy, we can use the formula that the constant of proportionality, or the unit rate, is always found by the y number divided by the x number. So in this case, I would do 5 divided by 2, which gives me 2.5. I would do 7.5 divided by 3, which happens to give me 2.5, and then 12.5 divided by 5, which happens to also give me 2.5. So yes, it is proportional because the constant is 2.5. What's another way to say that? The amount of candy, oopsie, multiplied by 2.5 is equal to the cost. So because every x is multiplied by the exact same value, that's why it's proportional. Writing an equation, we figured out, is really easy once you know the constant of proportionality. That is this number here. It's our unit rate, so that's our k. We just write 2.5, which is our k, multiplied by x. And remember, your equations always have to be in the form y is equal to k times x. When we graph, in this case, I'm just going to count by, I'll do 1 here, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I need to get to 12.5, so I'll do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And so we have 2 is at 5, and then 3 is at 7.5, and then 5 is at 12. Let me make sure I'm on the right line, 0.5. And we know that this is correct if, when I draw my straight line, it goes through all my points, and it has to go through the point 0, 0. So, there's my relationship. Determine the point 1, comma r. What's nice about this graph, you actually can even see the point. So 1, comma r is our way of saying r is supposed to be a number, and we know that value by looking at the graph. And remember, our points always go x first, y second. So this 1 is actually candy. And what they're asking me is for the cost when there's only one candy. On the graph here, if I use blue, so at 1 candy, here's my point, and that is 2.5 cost. Now, we can't tell exactly. The reason I know it's 2.5 is this question is very shadily asking you for the unit rate, which is also the constant of proportionality, and you notice we found it here, and you notice we found it here already. So that's how I knew. The other question that I've been using in class was, I said, well, what if I say something like, if I have the point 4, comma m on the graph, what's the value of m? Well, remember, this is candy, and this is cost. And so if I go to 4 candies, and I go up here, I now notice that there's a cost of $10. So in the context of the problem, I actually didn't finish letter D. 1 candy costs $2.50, because 2.5 doesn't sound correct for dollars. We don't talk about dollars as 2.5. So $2.50. And I lost my Y for my candy. All right, so that should be the homework answer key.